Hey everyone, my name is Missy Owen and I'm the Executive Clinical Director with Puzzlebox Academy and Kaleidoscope Interventions. For this month's parent training, we are going to be doing a deep dive into Rethink Behavioral Health. What is Rethink? That is the system we use to collect our data, where we have our schedules and where we do our session notes, do our treatment plans, have our progress reports, and all of that. Something that we're going to be doing is ensuring that all of our clients, parents, and caregivers have access to your child's Rethink account. So that will allow you to log in, see their schedule, and see the data. So this guide is going to be going over basic how-to of how to use Rethink, how to get logged in, and kind of what some of the things mean that you're going to be seeing in there. So Rethink, as I said on the last slide, this is the data collection system we use during all of our sessions across all of our locations. Rethink has both a website and an app to use. As parents, you guys will mainly be using that website version. So once you do get logged in, you will be able to see, as I said previously, your child's skill acquisition programs, their behavior programs and goals. You can see the graphs, you can see the raw data, what current treatments and targets we're using. Also in Rethink, you can see your kiddo's schedule. We have it in there, and that will be on a later slide when I go into what the different things mean that you're going to see on the schedule. Lastly, something that Rethink has is that they have a lot of resources and different webinars available. Some resources that they have include different worksheets, some different token boards, some visual schedules, and just different tools that we use during session, but also you can use at home, to help things. They also have webinars on different procedures and protocols and common themes in ABA. So they're definitely good resources to use and to peruse through. So as I said on the previous couple of slides, with that Rethink Parent Portal, you will be able to log in and see your child's skill acquisition programs and maladaptive behaviors. So with that data, as soon as we finish our session, we sync our data. Once that data's been synced, it's uploaded to the platform. Once you log in, you can see that data. So you'll be able to see all data other than if we're actively during a session. So if it's active session, that data you won't see until the session has ended and that data's been synced. And with Rethink, you can also see the schedule. So you can see any live updates that we make or if a session's been canceled, a time adjusted, or anything like that. So how do you create your account? So once this parent training video is posted live, we will be sending these emails out to all families. So make sure you're checking your email, spam, and junk folder as well, because the link we send out through that email is only going to be active for 48 hours. So if there is a delay, then that link we sent it won't be active. The verification code in the email will not be active. So if that is the case, just please reach out to your BCBA and we will be able to resend that link. But yeah, so basically you're just getting an email. In the email, it will have a link. You click the link, it will take you, which I'll show you on the next slide, to Rethink so that way you can make your account. Also in that link is going to be a verification code. So make sure you copy that code because you will need that code in order to create your account, which we'll go over on the next slide. So once you click the link sent to your email, it should take you to a screen that looks like this. Client name, that's going to be your child's name, date of birth, your child's date of birth, gender, your child's gender, and then the verification code sent to your email. Once all that information is in there, Rethink just does a check to make sure the information you're putting in matches the information we already have in there, double verification that you are the child's parent. Should be noted, parents will not have access to anyone else's child in Rethink. It's only going to be the kiddo, like your kid, that is activated to your account. So you don't have to worry about anyone, being able to go in and see your child's data. It will only be you as the parent who has access to that. So once you have your account made, you have the username and password set up, once you log into Rethink, this is going to be that first screen that takes you to. So as you can see, there are different options to choose from. So clients, that's going to take you to your child's account in Rethink. That's where you're going to be able to see all of their data, the skill acquisition programs we're working on, the maladaptive behaviors we're tracking. All of that will be under clients. Training, that's going to be where they have those webinars and those additional resources I was talking about as far as the visual schedules, token boards, worksheets, XYZ. Schedule, that's going to be where you can view your client's schedule. There is options to Rethink if you want to view it by the day, by the week, or by the month. Lastly, there is that fourth one, that is notifications. So currently, there shouldn't be much that you'd have to do with the notifications, but maybe down the road, there may be something involving that. But as of right now, as I said, there shouldn't be much to do with the notifications tab. So if you were to select the Clients tab, it would take you to the screen below. That is at the bottom half of the slide. So on there, it's only going to be your child's name that pops up. So you click on your kiddo's name, and that will take you then into where you can see their data and their file cabinet, demographic information, and all of that. As you can see on this screen, it is a test one from Rethink, so that's not a current kid by any means. You can see we have the date of birth, location where the kid was seen at, different funders. Those are going to be the different insurances that your child have that we have billed for. And then staff members assigned. So very likely you will see essentially all the staff members that could potentially work with your kid at each location. But as I said, the main thing on this screen is that you're just going to click on your kid's name. You only have access to your child, so typically only one name will pop up unless you have more than one child that is receiving services with us. So once you've selected your child's name, this is the screen that you're going to see. So as you can see, going from left to right, you have first client info. So that's where we're going to have that basic demographic info. Always good to just verify that the information we have is still correct. Also, now is a good time to note, please let us know as soon as possible if any of that demographic info does change. So whether that's a change in email address, change in address, change in phone number, change in emergency pickup contacts, those we definitely need to know, as well as any changes involving insurance. Because as we know, ABA therapy, we do bill that through insurance. So any changes or modifications to insurance, the quicker you let us know, the quicker we get on top of it and the better off things are. After client info, you then see file cabinet. So file cabinet is where all of our documents get stored in Rethink. So that's going to be every session note, all of the different progress reports we have, the different treatment plans and different authorizations and billing reports. All of that's going to be in the file cabinet. So a lot of that is mainly for insurance purposes. So those documents will not show up. Next tab, we have assessments. So in the Rethink platform, we don't typically use much of those assessments available. We have other platforms and other means of doing those assessments. But if we do happen to have an assessment open for your kiddo, that's where you could see it. The current box that we're on that has a red rectangle around it is going to be client program. So that's the one we're focusing on for this slide. So client program, that's going to be where you can see those current skill acquisition programs and targets that we are actively teaching your kiddo. So down below under client program, you can see there are 3 different tabs. You have current, future, and then mastered. So the current tab is where you're going to be able to log in and see the current skill acquisition programs that we actively work on during each and every session. Future. So the future tab is going to be for future programs, future goals to work on. Also, that's where we put the programs that are on hold, per se. So maybe that we start a program, schedule changes, and we realize like, hey, this just isn't applicable anymore. We never want to get rid of data because we do have that data, so we want to save it. So instead of deleting the program, we'll move it to that future tab. So that way it just doesn't show up daily, so we're not taking data on it, but we still have it in case we want to reference it down the road. Lastly, it's going to be that master tab. So with the master programs, there's going to be ones that your kiddo has mastered. With the master programs, those we still take our maintenance data on. So anytime we do teach a skill, we want to make sure that it maintains over time. So that's why we do those maintenance probes about a month, a couple weeks after the program has been mastered to make sure it maintains over time once we are no longer actively targeting it every single day. But as I said, so we're going to mainly focus on the current tab because that's where you can see the most data and see what we're actively doing with your kiddo during each session. So under that current tab, you're going to be able to see, as I said, all of the current programs. You want to take a note of what the name of the program is. Some of them may say BCBA only. Typically, the BCBA only ones are going to be more supervision based or those teacher parent goals. As well as you can see the different program names, as I said. I got confused. You can also see the different locations. So some programs may have the name academic next to it. Some may have the name clinic next to it. That's just going to discriminate when we run that program across which setting. So once you select a program and you click on view data, it will take you to a screen that looks like this. So as you can see on the top, there are 2 different tabs. We have the intervention data and then maintenance data. So the intervention data are going to be those live data that we are actively teaching in the moment with the different targets across the days. The maintenance data are going to be those master targets that we do those maintenance probes on. As I saw on the previous slide, those maintenance probes may be weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, just depending on how the BCBA set up the maintenance schedule. So on the intervention data though, that's where we're going to see that most data, the live data. So to note, on the x-axis, that is where we have our dates. Y-axis, that's going to be % of successful trials. It should be noted, it goes across by the date. So let's say on, 212, your kiddo may have had one session or they may have had 3 sessions. All of that data gets lumped together and it shows it per day. So that's always something to keep in mind when looking at the graph. You can see there's a bunch of different lines in there. Those are going to be our phase changes. What's a phase change? A phase change is when there is something changes to the program or to the environment. So it could be that, we just came back from spring break. There are phase changes in there to indicate that we were in spring break and doing clinic-only services, not academic. There's going to be phase changes in there when targets get mastered. There's going to be phase changes in there when we update the reinforcement schedule, when we update the prompt levels. As we fade back, there's prompts or introduce prompts. All of that's documented by those lines. And then you can see down below as well, it has the different targets with the different colors, so that way you look at the graph, you know what target we're looking at. We also see the skills that we're actively teaching your kiddo. For example, in this one, we're working on tacting actions. So tacting, that's going to be labeling. So for this kiddo, you can see we worked on singing, looking, writing, smelling, reading, pushing, opening, pulling, closing. So all of that data you can see on here. And there's even an option too if you wanted to. So this one, as you can see, it has the option selected to combine targets on the same graph. That's why we can see all of them. If you want to split it up, because that is hard to see, if you selected the option that said target specific graphs, that would show only one target per graph. So in instance, singing would be its own graph. Looking would then be its own graph. Writing would be its own graph. If you want to really break it down by target and see how your kid is doing with those specific targets in there. So on this slide is going to be an example of what only looking at one target at a time looks like. So with this program, it is accepting denied access. So currently we do only have one target we're working on. But on the previous example, when we had tacting actions, there was about 8 different targets going. So if you were to select the target specific graphs, those would have looked like this. And that only shows one at a time. Something else I want to note, if you can see at the top under, we have the name, the graphing options, and then the start date, end date. So Rethink just automatically shows the past 60 days worth of data. So if you do want to see past those 60 days, you can just click on the little calendar and then you can adjust that start date and end date. So that's always something good to just keep in mind if you want to see more long-term goals instead of just the past 60 days. So now to look at the behaviors. So that's going to be under the behavior support option, which is going to be to the right of the client program option when you're in your kiddo's Rethink portal. As you can see on here, there are 3 different tabs within that behavior support one. So learn, that's going to be where there are going to be those additional resources related to specific problem behaviors. Various videos, like I said, the resources, different examples, XYZ. A lot of those, I should note, are made by Rethink specifically and not by us. So they're probably going to be a bit more generic than what you'd see otherwise. If you're on the view plan option, that's where you're going to see the current behaviors we're actively targeting. As you can see on here, under view plan, it has behavior support, and then there's a box that says active. If you were to click the box that says active, it gives you 2 choices, active or archived. Archived are going to be behaviors that we are no longer targeting, that have either been placed on hold for whatever reason, maybe we changed the name of it, we changed something with it, or that have been mastered, but not mastered in a way that Rethink flags, and so this is kind of our back-end way to master it if it doesn't meet whatever criteria Rethink had established. But with that, you may want to look at the active ones because the active ones are going to be the ones that the most recent updated data have. Also in there are materials. So that's where you can view and print out kind of the whole document with different behavior support options in there. So when you do look at a kiddo's behaviors on the screen, it's going to show you what the goal is. It's going to show you our operational definition. So in the operational definition, it's going to explain what the behavior is, how we count an instance of that behavior, how we record the data. So that way you as the parent have an idea of what we're looking at when we say, oh, that was an instance of aggression, that was an instance of noncompliance, that was an instance of elopement. What does that mean? It will all explain it on this page. Also on this page, you're going to have the goal. So what is the end goal for this behavior? Do we want to see 0 rates of it? Do we want to see only 2 instances of it? Is it going to be across sessions, across days? What's our criteria? All that's in here, as well as any of those short-term goals. Those are called objectives in here, and kind of what we're actively working on, what we're looking at. So on the next screen, we're going to go over what that data looks like and kind of dive into what it can mean. So as you can see on this screen, this is going to be an example of what a behavior graph may look like. It should be noted, I cannot get it all to fit in one screenshot, so that's why there is that little white line and it doesn't exactly line up perfectly. That is just my lack of good cutting skills. But when you look at the data in Rethink, it will show like the whole completed graph. So in this example, we're looking at the behavior of mouthing. You can see under the name of the behavior, there are 2 tab options: ABC, intervention. ABC is going to be where you can see any ABC data that we've collected during session. Sorry. So with this, some of our kiddos, we do collect ABC data through the Rethink platform. Other clients, we collect it on paper and score it differently and graph it in Excel. So some kiddos, you will see ABC data and some you won't. It's just going to kind of vary based on how the BCBA has it set up. On the intervention tab, though, that's where this is actively seeing. The intervention tab is where you're going to see the data live. See that frequency count, duration count, rate count, whatever, way we happen to be recording the data, that will show. So as you can see, these are set up similar to how the skill acquisition is set up. On the x-axis are going to be the dates. Y-axis is going to be the frequency, the rate, the duration, whatever count we happen to be taking. You see it goes across sessions, as well as here we do have those phase lines to indicate changes. As you can see with this kiddo, mouthing, that's a good example of a variable behavior. Sometimes we see higher rates, sometimes lower rates. Down below where you can see underneath where it has all the dates, it does have what we're actively doing. So like for this example, it says block, redirect. So when this kid engages in mouthing behaviors, we block and we redirect it to a different behavior. So that's what that shows you. On this graph as well, and same with the skill acquisition, which I don't believe I mentioned. If you were to, so you're on Rethink, you see this. If you scroll down, that's where you can see the actual raw data. So that's where you can go in and you can see your kiddos, the date, who collected it, the trial, the time, and all of that. And we will dive into that more on the next slide as well. So this is what that raw data looks like that we were talking about on the last slide. So this is going to be the same for both the skill acquisition programs and those maladaptive behaviors. If you just look underneath the graph, you'll see the raw data. So going from left to right, all the way to the left, it's going to show us what the current intervention is. So in this case, as I said previously, for mouthing, we are blocking and redirecting. It shows us the date. Number occurred, that's going to be the number of times we recorded that behavior occurring during the session. Hours observed. So that will indicate the time that the staff logged into the Rethink session and the time that they sync the data. As you know, so some of them are exactly on, right at that 2-hour mark. Some of them may be close to 1.9, 3.7. It just truly depends on when the staff actually logged into Rethink and then sync the data. Sometimes you do it right at the start, sometimes right at the end. But if there's ever a session that we walk in and the kid's already in behavior, or you may not have our iPad ready available, those could be those instances that the hours observed showing don't exactly equal what the session time was. But please note, we were with your kid the entire session. Notes. If the therapist took any notes, that's where you can see in the data. Sometimes if there is a discrepancy in the data or we see higher rates or something happen, the therapist will make a note so that way we know why does this data point look different than the others. Entered by, that is going to be the staff who recorded the data. And then it has the clear option. So those should not show up for parents. And that's going to be like myself when I go in and view the data. That gives me an option to ever delete data if need be, if there was an error or something like that. But parents, please know if, like I said, you shouldn't have access to it, but if you do, please do not delete the data if it isn't there. So now that we finished going through the client aspect of Rethink, now we're going to look at the scheduling aspect. So as I said previously, on these selections, if you pick schedule, that's where you can go in and you can see your child's schedule. You can view it from daily, weekly, or monthly. Please note in the examples I'm going to show, they will be weekly, because that's just how I have it set up on my end. But definitely you can set yours up as how you'd like to see it. So this is going to be what you can see when you log in, especially through the website. Please note, if you did use the app version of this, it will look different. So I definitely recommend using the website version. It's a lot easier to see. So in this example, it's showing us the kiddos' schedule for the week. As you can see, individual calendar. So like in this example, it's showing us May 2024, the week of May 13th. So you can see that the dates highlighted with that red box on it on the calendar, that's going to be today's date. But then on the actual schedule, that's where you can see the times that your kiddo had the scheduled sessions, their session scheduled. You can also see, so the name in the box, that's going to be the therapist assigned to work with your child during that session. So you can see the start time, the end time, and who's working with your kiddo. As in this example from Rethink, if you click on the session and then click open occurrence, that will take you right into the actual session, so you can see more of the nitty gritty of it, such as the location and what exact code we're billing. As far as open series, that one shouldn't be an option, but if so, because sometimes when we do the schedule, ideally when we do the schedule, we'll do it out in the series, so it's the same across a month. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. It just kind of varies on how the schedule is set up. But so if you hit open occurrence, that will take you to that specific session. Open series, that will show more the entire series for that session time for that staff member. So on this side, I have 3 different examples of what appointments can look like in Rethink. Forgot to say this on the last side, but on the last side, there was an orange appointment in there. So any orange appointment just means that that appointment, the authorization is not current for that appointment time. What does that mean? So sometimes when we set up a series, we'll do it across a month period. So let's say that your kiddo, their authorization ends in the middle of the month, a new auth starts. So when we build out the series, it's going to be all under the first authorization. So once that one ends and the next one kicks in, then we just go in and change the date and make it green again. So that's what the orange one means. But more commonly, you will see when you log into Rethink and see the schedule, it will be one of these 3 examples of the green that you see. So on this one, so you can see I did it with myself and then a test child. So on 3/31 from 10 to 12, that is a normal appointment. That means I worked with this kiddo 10 to 12. As you can see, BCBA direct therapy, so that's me, BCBA, and with the kiddo. On 4/1, that's an example of what a canceled session will look like. So anytime you see that red exclamation mark on a session, it means that that was canceled. It could be canceled for various reasons. It could be that, we had the kid call out, we had the staff call out. It could be that we had to move stuff around. And maybe that, we built the series but forgot on this day, he has speech therapy, so we had to cancel that and move it. Many different reasons for why it may be canceled. If you'd like to see more information, that's when if you click on the session and then open occurrence, there will be a note in there as to why that session was canceled. Schedule change, client sick, staff sick, input incorrectly, XYZ. On there as well, you'll be able to see if it was canceled by the family or by the staff. Also, if it was 24 hours or less than 24 hours. As you guys know, our policy is that we do require a 24-hour notice at least on any canceled appointments or schedule changes or things like that. So that's where the 24-hour kicks in. The last example of what a session could look like is going to be on 4/2. So that session with the lines through it, that just means that that staff member completed their session note and verified the appointment. So we do have some staff that will verify their appointments. That essentially locks in the time. Yes, I was with this kid from 9 to 11. Some staff do it, some don't. But basically all that means is that yes, that time is locked in, it's done, it's good to go. So most commonly though, you will see an example of a session from 3/31. That's just that generic green normal session. So on there, because it's on my specific calendar, you don't see my name, you see the T child for test child. But usually when you log in, it will pull up your child's specific calendar. So then the name you see in the box is going to be the name of the staff member working with them. So like in this example, BCBA direct therapy. Pretty much you're going to see that one, or RBT direct therapy, or BCABA direct therapy, or a parent training, caregiver training, or assessment. So typically those 5 are going to be the only tag of name that you'd see in there. But definitely any questions or concerns, please reach out to your BCBA and we can give more specific examples and explain why the schedule looks the way it does. So on this side, I did include 2 resources. That first link is going to be a how-to guide that was created by Rethink that gives a lot more details than this presentation that I made. But this information on the presentation I did take from this guide. Also very much details the different aspects of what the parent portal of Rethink looks like, the different ways to navigate and troubleshooting options. The second one is just the generic Rethink website. Just in case anyone had difficulties finding it, that's what it is. And as always with our parent trainings, we have 3 questions at the end of the presentation just to make sure everyone was watching, paying attention. So as you can see, simple questions. Please answer them, and that will count as your parent training credit for this month. You just got to turn those answers in, and you will receive credit for this parent training. So as you see, question number one. Will parents be able to see information on clients who are not their child in Rethink? Number 2, how much will it cost parents to use Rethink? Number 3, what does a red exclamation mark indicate on a schedule for a session? Please answer and turn them in, and you receive credit for attending this training.